Hi, this is Simon with just a brief reminder to follow us on our Facebook page, Chronicles on the Fly. Like the page, send us a message, any questions or anything that you would like us to talk about. And maybe on the next episode, we'll do just that. So there you go. Chronicles on the Fly on Facebook. Thanks. Let's get into the show. Back on Chronicles on the Fly, I'm Simon.
And I'm Mel.
And we're coming to you from an office in Northbridge on Zoom, together in an office in Northbridge. On one side of the office is myself, and on the other side is Mel. So we can wave at each other.
We can wave. We're just maintaining what the government says, social distancing rules.
I think we're beyond the 1.5 metres at this point. We're at about 10?
Yeah, close to 10 metres.
With a wall of glass between us. we're being such good citizens, I feel.
That's it, adhering to our community responsibility, our social responsibility.
Okay. Now, should we bust into our rant about how we're under a police state and our rights and liberties have been taken away and...
Oh, they've definitely been slightly eroded, aren't they?
Oh, just a little bit, just a little bit. Don't get me started.
Yeah. And I think this state's worse than others, personally. You can compare it to a lot of things that the first one is obviously the alcohol restriction. I mean, seriously, what does a West Australian can only buy 1 can of beer, but a South Australian can buy 3 cans of beer? I mean, is that not just ludicrous? Aren't we all Australian?
I hadn't heard that, but yeah, that is ridiculous. But I suppose
and everywhere else, we're the only state with the one carton restriction.
Well, it just means go to the next bottle down the road.
Yeah, so it kind of defeats the purpose of social distancing. To be honest. So
beaches as well open, and everyone's been going to the beach.
That's it. And according to the police commissioner, you got to go into the beach, go for a swim, and then leave. I mean,
I love the footage on the news about people at the beach and cops walking along the sand and drone flying overhead and everyone's being spied on basically. So make sure that you're laying on the towel 1.5 meters apart from the next person. This is very draconian measures, let's say.
Yes, we've got the drones now, so we have to be even more careful.
Careful where you go, what you do, and who you talk to.
That's correct. I heard now that also unless you're in the same household, and if you're travelling in a car, it's all right to sit at the front. But if it's not, the person has to sit in the back seat, and only one person. So if you're not living in the same household, and you can only go obviously to the shop and go to work, and that's pretty much it.
Mm. The lack of common sense part about it is all a load of crap and really annoys me. Things like that. You got to sit in the back seat. That's just absolute rubbish, if you ask me. I don't think it happened I think it was Victoria, where the girl was doing on her L plates and doing a driving lesson with her mum, and they pulled her over and got a fine. Yeah. I think it was something like $1,600. And that
actually there was another one that happened. There was 2 in Victoria where they pulled them. There was that one, and there was another case.
I think they retracted the fine, didn't they?
Yeah.
And what choice did they have after the public, caning that the cops got for that? But
that's just an example of a police state, isn't it?
Exactly right. And what are individual cops thinking doing that? Is it they just on a power trip? Because look, at the end of the day, I've always had the utmost respect for police officers, right? We know some, they're brilliant. But then you get these just individual yahoos do stupid things like this because what is it? They're on a power trip? I don't know.
Yeah.
Where's the common sense?
Yeah. I'm hearing you. I know what you're trying to say.
Members of the public dobbing in, whether it's their neighbour or just strangers, for not strictly abiding by the would you call it laws or guidelines or whatever, the rules. It's ridiculous. I think the public reaction or just the reaction in general in a lot of instances, not all, are just really overboard, and it's really starting to grind on me. And I'm really getting annoyed with it. We've mentioned it in previous episodes. Go to a shopping centre and how eerie that feels. My wife a couple of weeks ago came home from going to the shopping, going to Coles, I think it was, to pick up some groceries. And she told me that she walked out of there almost in tears, because of the ugly experience. And my mum, the same thing. Two separate shopping centres. One, the local shopping centre that's around the corner from my parents' home where I grew up, and we've gone for years, 30 plus years. Now you go there and it just feels like it's a gross experience.
Yes, I'm just wondering what's going to happen after all this post-coronavirus. What's the mentality of the people going to be? Like, is forever the handshake going to be something that's very limited? Is it going to be? Well, it's not so much. I hate using the word the new norm, but
I can't stand that. That makes me angry hearing it.
Yeah, I second that motion, but is it something that we're going to become accustomed to? Like, yes, you're going to shake hands and hug the people you know and you're really close, but for someone you don't know as such, well, when you meet them for the first time, you're going to shake their hand, or you're going to think twice. So something to ponder, which we won't know. Well, hopefully,
I don't think I will have that way of thinking or be of that mindset. But who knows? In general, that.
Well, look at people's mindset when it's about sanitizing their hands now. Every 2 minutes, everyone's just sanitizing their hands. I'm like, Jesus. It's actually ridiculous. Like, you go to the shops, they're sanitizing the trolley, the petrol station, they're sanitizing the hand pump, and there's it's sanitized everywhere. It's like, my God.
Yeah, I went to the petrol station yesterday, and I was looking around, like, is there hand sanitizer? I was surprised that they weren't putting hand sanitizer near the pumps, but I suppose people steal it. I don't know.
No, the one I go to has a sanitizing cloth.
Okay,
like disposable cloth, so you pull that down and wipe what you need. But even so, it's not really. I'm like, since when has that bothered me? But now subconsciously I'm thinking, I better sanitize that. Is that mentality going to continue through after this post-corona, post-COVID-19 era?
Yeah. Which for something like the petrol bowser, I think it's probably a good idea to keep some in your car anyway, regardless of a virus or not, because people are putting their grubby hands on it all day, 24/7. So it's probably a good idea to clean your hands after you've handled that.
One of my friends has a mechanical workshop, and he bought 20 litres of sanitizer. And the poor guy, I reckon everyone who's gone past has taken half a litre. It's left with none. Oh, can I have some? Can I have some? Can I have some? Can I have some?
I mean, and just contrast the reaction, and obviously we need to talk about WA specifically, okay? Because it's a different situation in obviously Europe, Italy, Spain, and even like New South Wales, which has copped the brunt of it over here in Australia of the cases. I think they've got more than half
due to the Ruby Princess. What a debacle that's been.
What a joke that is, and like we said last week, heads need to roll about that. But anyway. But at the moment, we're around 300 active cases, okay? Like, there's been 400 or close to 500, but some have been recovered, okay? And I think there's a little bit over 300 active cases in WA. So the reaction compared to the actual problem is, I mean, you can also argue that, it's better to have overreacted after in hindsight, realize that it was that you overreacted rather than in hindsight thinking, God, I wish we had have reacted stronger. Right?
Yeah, of course.
I get that, but it's just the effect that it's having on our liberties, our rights, mental states as well. I mean, how many people? Stories that you're hearing of people being isolated and depression. And I think there's going to be a rolling effect after this is eventually over, whenever that is, of people's mindsets, being in a negative way for quite a while to come because of the isolation effect that is being compounded on them. So I think counselling services and are going to.
Well, I think Beyond Blue's been absolutely inundated with.
I completely understand it. I mean, I don't have that issue, I've never had that issue, luckily. But you never know that something might affect you in years to come down the track. Because it's an illness. You can't blame people for these things. But
it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that is worrying.
Yes, and we've discussed it several times. Economic situation, which is going to be, unfortunately, it's not going to be us, the people.
The thing that really concerns me about economically is, all the welfare that's being handed out through this, especially the job seeker, job keeper stimulus packages that the government's passed now, I think, haven't they? Through Parliament. Now, is this just going to be conditioning people for the long term to suck on the teat of government, be reliant on welfare for years and years to come, rather than, being proactive in
looking for a job,
either looking for a job or creating jobs, creating something of their own and employing others? I think that this is going to have, again, another aspect of this is going to have a compounding effect for years and years to come. And it's whether it's something that's measurable or not, I don't know. I don't know if it will be measurable, but
I'm sure they'll come up with some study that they'll think about it. They always do, don't they? They've got studies on everything, haven't they?
I just think that this is really a sort of social conditioning to further entrench the welfare state, the welfare mindset, whether that's by design in some sense or by necessity. I don't know. Okay, I really don't know.
I just feel sorry for our children and grandchildren, because I believe they're going to cop the brunt of this bill that has to be paid for. And they can't start charging higher taxes in the near future, in the next 10 years, can they? Because it's going to take time to recover. So, so my daughter is 7. So in 10 years, she'll be 17. Starting to go to high school, maybe in 15, start leaving high school. Then she'll be starting to go to university if she wants to go that, or she wants to find a job. They're going to cop the brunt of the tax. They're going to pay for it. By that stage, I'll be, in the twilight era of my working life. So I can't see myself. Well, I'll probably cop a little bit of it, but I reckon they're going to, my daughter and my grandchildren, God willing, one day, they're going to unfortunately really feel the brunt of this.
Exactly right. Because of all this debt that government is going to be in for years and years and years and decades to come, for paying these billions of dollars in welfare. What are the other measures that they're going to put in place to increase taxes or fees and levies and all that kind of stuff, right? Whatever you want to call them. Little increases in little other parts of your life, Medicare levy and, all these.
Well, the GST is the first one that you can turn around is going to get this game.
Yep, the GST, they'll probably go.
First, they'll start with taxing everything across the board. There'll be no GST exemptions, which, as an accountant, you'd think it would probably make life a lot easier for everybody.
And this will be a reason to increase it to 15% and then maybe 20%, in another.
I think the long-term goal is to increase it, is to actually increase it.
Yep.
But even on a state level, so the state government's going to make its plan to stimulate the economy, which I don't know what they're doing at the moment, but I'm sure they'll work something out. But sooner or later, we're going to have to pay for that one way or another, whether it be increase in water, increase in electricity, increase in car rego, increase in stamp duty. They're going to have to charge somewhere along the line.
And along with that, increase in the percentage of the population that are on government handouts and welfare. So then the working class are going to be paying more for those for those people.
Yep,
it's just a cyclical effect, and it's a compounding effect. It's just.
Yep.
I think that this situation is, in terms of its effect on Australia, is bigger than the biggest world event that we've seen probably in our lifetime.
Since World War II.
Well, in our lifetime is September 11. Okay, you got to say the figures. But what effect did that have on us? Not so much really over here. Maybe some increased security measures at airports, things like that, but not compared to like America.
Yeah.
But in terms of our overall lifestyle and way of living, this is the biggest thing we've seen in our lifetime. No doubt about it.
I think you probably would have seen that September 11, going back to September 11, you would have seen probably people's attitude towards Middle Eastern ethnicities and religions.
Okay, get that. I get that. But really,
change.
Maybe there was some increased xenophobia or even racism, right, that came out of that. And I don't know, call it paranoia, call it security measures that may or may not have been warranted.
Social profiling.
Right. Okay. Look, to an extent, social profiling, I think, has its place within reason. But anyway, that's a different subject. But an actual effect on your day-to-day living, your day-to-day way of life, your day-to-day interactions with people, running businesses, socializing. What's had a bigger effect? In a space of about 3 weeks, this has upturned everybody's life in a direct way.
Absolutely, 100%. There's not one person that has not been affected by COVID-19. Whether they've caught the disease or indirectly, one way or another, everything's been affected.
Yep. And
even the retiree who lives at home is still being affected because their portfolio or their share portfolio would have been affected.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every one way or another.
And what I wanted to come back to as well was how this thing started. Right now, the initial story that came out of China when they eventually, got around to spilling the beans about it was, it came from a bat at these wet markets or blah, 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 then possibly through another animal and then to humans. Load of shit, probably. Because there was a story during the week on Fox News in America about the fact that there are no bat colonies in Wuhan in China for 900 kilometers, right? The closest bat colony is 900 kilometers away, and they were not selling bats at those wet markets. Okay?
A man who's traveled to China, a lot, regardless whether it's 900 kilometers, man, I've been to some markets and seen stuff there that's probably from 5,000 kilometers away. So,
okay, yeah, I get that potential, but
yeah.
But however, also in Wuhan, there are 2 bioweapons laboratories in Wuhan. Okay, and it just seems very suspect to me. Okay, and stories that they were doing experiments on bats and that type of thing, and something leaked out. Right now, this story has just been quashed. Okay, it came up, they were talking about it, and you haven't heard anything of it since. It didn't even make the mainstream. It didn't. I think Sky News in Australia had a segment on it. And again, after that, just under the carpet. Nothing more mentioned about it.
Yeah. You probably find, well, it doesn't really fit the agenda, does it? So, of some of the other networks. But in saying that, Simon, they're drawing a long bow. And
do you think it's drawing a long bow, or do you think it's suspect that it's brought up, it's not denied by anyone, and it's just swept under the carpet? I'm not saying that I 100% believe it, but the question's there, and I'd like an answer.
No, yeah, but in China, you'd never know that anyway. They wouldn't tell you. They would never tell you. I mean, you speak to an average Chinese person and they'll mention the word Tiananmen Square. There's no correlation to they didn't even know that there was people who got shot there in 1989, June the 2nd or whatever day it was.
Yeah.
They don't know. They just no comprehension. I mean, forget about looking, and I wouldn't even try to look it up on the internet if I was in China anyway, because I would want the Chinese police knocking on my door. But yeah, definitely they don't know. A lot of these people only found out about it when if they've travelled overseas, a lot of the Chinese people. And they've seen the famous photo of Tank Man and what actually happened there, and the documentaries about what happened at Tiananmen Square. But that's just China, how they rule and how they operate and keep people in line under an iron fist.
Yeah, totally. I know that the average Chinese person has no idea of that event.
And I've been personally in China, and you've been at a bar watching CNN, hypothetically, or whatever, because they do have, then all of a sudden the TV goes black. Well, God knows what it could have been something about Tibet or Nepal or whoever, but we won't know. We didn't know. So, okay, so, geez, that's no good. So they blocked that one out. And then there was another time, I'll never forget, I was in Beijing and I'm driving, and I said I was driving, we had a driver, And we said to the driver, he could speak a little bit English, can you put the radio on? Because they actually had a radio station there, 92.9, which is kind of ironic because we have that here. I said, put it on 92.9 because, there's the radio not working today. I said, what do you mean the radio not working today? He goes, no, radio station closed today for 4 hours. I thought, okay. Okay, so put on a different one. No. Every radio station closed for 4 hours. What does that tell you? It tells you that they're controlling the media.
Why would they just close radio stations down?
Yeah, but they must have been saying they didn't want people to hear, or must have been testing something. So,
well,
it was just quite funny. So
talking about something that they don't want people to hear or to be censored. So I like to watch. There's this internet channel, you could call it, or a website, podcast. It's called London Real. Okay, I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Brian Rose, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he's really
absolutely good. Amazing. He's actually got a really good story off the record. Have you actually read his story, like where he's come from to what he come?
Tell me if I'm right about this. From what I know of his story is that he was like working in finance in New York, in Manhattan, when September 11 happened. And that event, he was there that day, obviously, and that event kind of changed his life, and he just went, what the hell am I doing with my life? Pulled up stumps and moved to London and started his little media company.
Yeah. I heard he had his own personal demons, as in he had a few, some quite, if I remember, if I'm correct, if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was some serious demons he had, as in alcohol and drugs and stuff like that.
But anyway, he's a very good interviewer, and he does long form interviews with a lot of prominent people. Some I've seen are like Simon Sinek, who's really good.
He does one with a guy called Dan Pena. Absolutely amazing. My God, they're called Dan Pena, the $50 billion man.
I've seen the Dan Pena one, and he's a bit of a very brash and.
I really like that, but I like his.
I can see him resonating with you. Actually, I've seen that one.
He's straight to the point. If he doesn't like you, he'll tell you. If you don't like what you hear, he'll tell you straight. Life's not all about roses and cherries with him, mate. He's straight to the point.
Another good one he's done is with Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and that's pretty much like a Bible for people starting their like financial investment journey, or not even starting, but just people who are into that type of thing. Anyway, the one I watched the other day, and I sent you the link. I don't know if you watched it. Was
tried to get it, but it was blocked.
Well, this is what I'm going to get to, right? So there was about a 2.5 hour long interview with David Icke. Right now, David Icke is he's been around for probably 30 years. He's an English guy, and he's probably the most well-known conspiracy guy in the world, right? And he's come up with a lot of crap, let's be honest. He's come up with a lot of, the royal family are a bunch of reptiles and stuff like this, which is just whatever, But what he's been going on about is that a lot of this coronavirus stuff is linked to 5G telecommunications networks. Anyway, that aside, he's a very interesting interview. Whether you think it's a bit of some nut job stuff or not. But anyway, this interview was put on the YouTube channel. I think it was live streamed on the London Real YouTube channel, and YouTube took it down pretty much immediately. It was also it was viewed over 10 million times. Okay, that's a lot of views.
That's a good income for Brian Rose.
Well, it was going viral is the point, right? So everyone was interested in hearing this message, because I think that, like me, there's a lot of people with questions out there about this, this virus stuff, the origins of it. Is it man-made? Is it, in some sense, by design, trying to set up this type of, system of servitude of people, of citizens and things like that? I don't know, right? But anyway, this video was brought down, and all it is a discussion, right? Whether it's whack job stuff or it's you don't agree with it or you do agree with it, whatever. It's where's the freedom of speech? Okay, so YouTube brought it down. Brian Rose tried to re-upload it, again brought down, and he's even done like short videos just talking to the camera, talking about that interview, right? and the situation with it being censored by YouTube. And those videos have been pulled off by YouTube as well. Now, I just think that when there is something that these big corporations like Facebook, Google, YouTube, or Google and YouTube are the same thing now, when they're censoring stuff, when they're just censoring people talking to each other, that's something that leaves a question mark in my mind. It's like there's got to be something more to the story that someone, in high places don't want you to know.
Yeah. Did you see, actually, speaking of big corporate companies, Google and Apple are coming together to create an app to let people know on their phone if they come in contact with someone nearby that has had the coronavirus.
Okay. Now, how's that going to work? I spoke last week about Bill Gates pushing this digital ID thing for people who have been vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Does this come into that type of thing? Because how's this technology going to work? This Big Brother shit is really, I think we're going to see lots and lots and lots more of it in the near years to come.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
it's going to come more and more and more and more.
And this virus stuff, whether it's all natural or come about naturally, or whether it was some big power play and to try and push these things through, whatever, it's all falls into their hands. It ticks all the boxes that they need. Fear in the public, needing these digital IDs. This is not bullshit. This is real, right? They want to do this.
But the one with the Apple and Google, I'm sorry, how would Google know that you've had the virus?
What I mean is, if you don't have the digital ID or what, I don't know. There's got to be some link there.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to work out. Like, how would Apple know if you've had the virus or not? And you're supposed to be in quarantine. How would they know? So what they're saying is your phone is working behind the scenes, talking to other phones about data that you might have come in contact with them.
You mentioned phones, and that's where, and I think that's where this idea about the 5G networks comes into play. All right, this 5G. I don't know anything about 5G. All right, I don't know anything about 4G. Right? I don't know anything about telecommunications. But anyway, this 5G network apparently is supposed to connect all of this together. The digital ID stuff, and it's who knows if it makes people sick or not. There's that theory going around.
Woody Harrelson said that, so it's all 5G.
I really don't care what actors say, like one way or the other, right? Yeah. But one thing about this theory of 5G causing illnesses and virus, who knows, right, is that's another thing, right? When you see things in the mainstream media rubbishing conspiracy theories or whatever you want to call them, right, that's sus to me as well. Okay, because if they were really that whack job, they would just ignore it. It wouldn't be worth the airtime. Okay, yeah. But when you see things that trying to downplay or rubbish theories, and people say, and this is another thing about this 5G stuff, right? All the people denying it are all involved with it's just normal technology, and it's just advancement of technology, and it doesn't cause any sort of illnesses and that type of thing. They're all involved in telecommunications companies. They got skin in the game. I want to hear someone independent who's done a study to say that this is all fine and above board. When I hear that, I feel confident in it. Mm. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I'm going to decide one way or the other that 5G is a good thing or a bad thing. I've got no idea about it. I just got a question. That's all that I think is legitimate, and I would like a legitimate answer to.
Mm. Just on a different note, I'm talking about, speaking of celebrities, and I know he didn't give a shit about them, but I get very frustrated, especially with one particular celebrity, Pete Evans, Chef Pete Evans.
Oh, this tosser.
Excuse my language, everyone. Shut the fuck up, Pete. You're not a doctor. Don't tell everyone that if they spend $15,000 on the subtle energy platform, it will help get rid of COVID-19. What an absolute banana of a bloke. He deserves a real, in the old school, a fresh one.
Yeah.
That is absolutely disgusting. And that's when you should say that Google and Apple and Facebook should pull that crap down, because that is disgusting. People will die because they listen to this idiot.
Definitely.
He's a chef. You know what? Cook my steak, medium rare. That is it. That's your job.
However, one good thing about the media to do with that is it has rubbished the hell out of him, right, as a crackpot. And surely people will see that and, be dissuaded from buying.
95% of the people say, yeah, he's a crackpot. But he's going to attract that 5% of people who are going to actually believe him.
Yeah, this thing's worth $15,000 US. So what's that? Probably about 25,000 Australian. So the chances that people are going to be buying it here, I think, are relatively low. However,
but if you have a look at the highest rates of anti-vaxxers in Western Australia, they're based in the more affluent western suburbs. So those people could afford it. So if you look, generally speaking, where the lowest rates of vaccines or the highest rate of anti-vaxxers are in the western suburbs.
There's a disclaimer on the website, apparently, in the fine print, saying that this will not cure illnesses. So I don't know what the point of it is. So that, they've covered themselves there. It's as strange as anything, but it should be pulled from sale, that's for sure.
Absolute disgusting, and I can't believe that the Google and Facebook and all this give him time and actually put it on their website.
What's he on? Is he on Channel 7?
Oh, Channel 7, yeah. He's on My Kitchen Rules. Well, they've done their dash now. They've really suffered.
Because of this?
Or not, but just as in general. I think everyone's just sick and tired of listening to these, so-called chefs and all that, telling everyone what to do.
Well, apparently a sign, I read this a while ago, a sign of the fall of an empire, or in the Roman Empire, there was a certain time when chefs and cooks became like celebrities, okay, and that was like just before the gradual fall of the empire. So they reckon that it's a sign of everyone becoming so comfortable and wealthy or complacent that we revere chefs kind of thing. So yeah,
I've got nothing against chefs. They do a great job, but we shouldn't listen to them as medical experts, and like him with his stupid diet. What's he talking about? That pathetic diet he talks about?
Paleo diet, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, frustrating, absolutely frustrating.
Yeah, he's obviously a crackpot.
Yeah, he's obviously. But it's all right for his wife to get breast implants. That's fine. All means, yeah, no problem.
Don't shame. Don't body shame.
I'm not body shaming. That's complimenting her body. But if you're going for one thing about can't have vaccines and you can't do this and you got to have paleo diets and everything. This, but it's all right. But fill up your body with Botox and silicone. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I get it.
Not a problem.
Another thing that was very prominent in the media this week, controversial.
Very controversial.
The decision by the High Court to quash the conviction of Cardinal George Pell. What do you think?
Well, okay, I'll just go tell you right now. Not really a fan of George Pell.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to make that very clear. I'll say I'm a Catholic by nature, but I'm not a practicing Catholic as such. I'm sure you could agree with that one too, Son.
Well, I'd go even further to say that I just don't believe it, full stop. But anyway, carry on.
Well, I'm a non-practicing Catholic. I believe in their values. I don't believe necessarily the church.
That's fair.
And I've never really been a fan of priests personally, because how they can absolve you. You tell them your sins and they can absolve you for what you've done wrong. I think it's a load of crap.
Yep.
In the words of Michael Corleone from The Godfather, where he said, I prayed for a bike, but God didn't give it to me, so I stole one and asked for forgiveness. And I use that. So, yes, we can know the Catholic Church a bit hypocritical. Ask for forgiveness, ask for forgiveness, ask for forgiveness, But really, look, again, I'll make clear, I don't like George Pell. But if you look at the case as on its values, right, it's a very weak case. And I think it's a case, it's a trial by media as opposed to I believe the initial case should have been a judge-only trial. I think it would have had a bit different. I don't think it would have been as clear-cut as in 12-0 jury trial. And hence why, if you look at the High Court, they voted 7-0 because at the end of the day, the evidence is a little bit. You have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Now, regardless if he's George Pell or he could have been Stan Smith, he could have been George Steve, whoever. If that was another person, would everyone be jumping up and hurrying up and down? They'll be saying, "Oh, okay, the prosecution got it wrong. They freed an innocent man." Do you agree with that one?
Well, I agree with your view completely. And we haven't even discussed this previously. So, obviously, I agree with you.
And again, I cannot stand George Pell, and he to me looks cringeworthy. And again, as a Catholic, but not a practicing Catholic as such, I'm not really a fan of the Catholic Church. So let's make that clear. But I just look at this on base of law, and law as it's to me. This isn't about whether you're Catholic or religious or pedophile or whatever. This is about law, about the case that was presented to the prosecution's case. Now, it doesn't matter if it's about what crime it committed. It could be any crime. This is about any crime, not just that crime, the disgusting crime that was alleged that he committed. Any crime. The prosecution there should be a watertight case because they could charge you for something else, and it goes all the way through. That's how I look at it.
All right. So just to lay out or explain to anyone who doesn't know the details of the case, and I'm not going to go into specific details, but just an outline is obviously he was accused by someone of doing child sexual abuse after a particular mass in St. something Cathedral. Patrick, is it St. Patrick's?
Yeah, St. Patrick's. Yeah,
St. Patrick's Cathedral in Melbourne. Obviously, this was said to occur how many years ago? 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, in the 90s, I think it was
something like that. Okay,
when he was Archbishop at the time.
He was Archbishop. Okay. Now he had a trial. He came back from the Vatican 2 years ago or so. Had a trial, and the jury couldn't make a decision. So it was a hung jury, and they had to have a retrial with a new jury. And that jury in the second trial convicted him. Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just one jury. No. I didn't know that. It was just
the initial jury couldn't make a decision. So obviously that means some wanted to convict him and some didn't, and they could not come to they were at loggerheads. And I think after a certain time, you must have to just pull up stumps and start over. I think that's what happened. So in the second trial, he was convicted. However, there were not a lot of people in the media. There were only a handful of people in the media who had weighed up the evidence as it was presented in the trial and said this is not, it doesn't stack up, right? There's too many questions that leave reasonable doubt open and still on the table, okay? And I would agree with that based on the evidence that I had read, okay? However, he was convicted and the judge sentenced him to how much? 4 years or something?
4 years, 6 years or whatever it was.
Whatever it was, anyway. But then it goes to the Victorian Appeals Court and they weighed it up and there were 3 judges. They upheld the sentence. How do you say it? Upheld the conviction.
2-1, but it was 2-1.
By 2-1. And the one judge that was the dissenting judge, let's call him, or the one who had voted to overturn the conviction in the Victorian Appeals Court, wrote a 250-page document outlining all his reasons about the evidence that didn't stack up. Okay?
Well, no one said that.
Well, it was in the, if you, some parts of the media did.
Your mainstream media wouldn't have covered it that way because I guarantee you
probably not. No.
Channel 9 would never have said that.
So basically it was just too implausible, the evidence that was presented. And also another major thing that was ignored by the jury that convicted him and also the 2 appeal judges was that Pell had witnesses go on the stand during the trial and to say to back him up, basically, to say that the accusations by the defendant were impossible to have happened because when this incident was said to occur was directly after the Mass when George Pell was still robed, still had his Archbishop robes on. And when he's robed, he's by tradition and custom supposed to be accompanied at all times, and he was. And the person accompanying him, the Monsignor or whatever he was called, right, he was the one giving the evidence saying that, no, this is not possible, And apparently there were others who testified in his defence as well, right? And these witnesses were unchallenged by the prosecution. So there was no pushback. However, their testimonies were ignored. That's disgraceful in itself, right? So there's obvious reasonable doubt, So it's a he said, she said case. In a he said versus she said case, or in this case, he said, you can't convict on hearsay. Surely not. Especially when the defendant has witnesses defending him.
You're right. But I think it's again, the word beyond reasonable doubt, there has to be completely clear circumstances that he was guilty. In Victoria, and you mentioned that there should have been it should have been trial by judge only. Yes, that in this case I would compare the trial by media and the public bias very similar to what we've got over here in WA in terms of the Claremont serial killer case that's going on. That's a trial by judge only. Yes, because how would you get 12 independent people in the state of Victoria not to have heard about George Pell?
Exactly, impossible. However,
it's actually impossible.
The law in Victoria doesn't allow for trial by judge only. That's why they didn't.
Well, Victoria's got its own issues.
I think that should change. All right. Now, anyway, the guy's been in jail for 405 days in total, apparently, and finally appealed at a higher level to the Australian High Court, which is the highest court in the country. There are 7 judges on that panel, or judges or justices, whatever they're called.
Yeah, Chief Justice.
Magistrates, Chief. In America, they call them Chief Justice here. I'm not sure what they call them here. But anyway, so they weigh up the situation from the trial, from the appeal, and hand down their decision. All unanimous judges, 7-0, said no, this conviction is quashed, and the reasons why. And in their reasoning, it was written 3 separate times in 3 separate areas that it is significantly likely that an innocent man has been convicted. How more clear can you be?
Yeah, but then you get people talking on the media like,
I don't know. It's just like, how can you deny that the wrong decision was made initially, and now the right decision has been made? And having said that, there is a possibility that he did whatever he's accused of. However, the standard of proof is that the evidence needs to be beyond reasonable doubt. Okay. And thank God for that, because that's the basis of law in Australia. In any democratic society, that should be the standard, right? But the thing is, they've switched it. All the people attacking Pell and wanting him convicted seem to be just putting that basic tenet of law aside. That he has, absolutely. Because the onus is on the prosecution to prove that he did it. The onus is not on the defendant to prove that he didn't do it. You know what I mean? Yep. If the onus was on the defendant in any case, in any part of Australia or any part of the world, if the onus is on the defendant to prove that he did not do it, then the jails would be overflowing.
Oh, it'd be a disaster
with innocent people is what I mean, you know. So, look, by law, it's the absolute right decision, and that is objective. You cannot deny that. And if anyone disagrees with that, then you really need to check, you know, what law is all about. And obviously, I'm not student of law. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have legal training, that type of thing. But it's just logic. It's just logic, you know. Anyway, because at the end of the day, it's, what do they say? It's better that 100 guilty people go free than one innocent person goes to jail.
Well, that's like, and like in WA, if you look past in history, we had the Andrew Mallard case. Absolutely disgusting how that man was.
Mm-hmm.
He was charged. They took advantage of a person it was a handicapped man, because he was a handicapped man, wasn't he, Mallard?
I don't know much of the story there.
That was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And the other case was obviously
the Mickelbergs.
No, not Mickelbergs. The one he was charged, husband and wife there. How can I forget what's his name? Lloyd Rainey.
Oh, yeah.
The Rainey case. And the police were pretty sick in that case. I was always under the impression that he was the person. I thought he was too good to not. I thought he'd done it. Till again, you read the case and you actually do a bit more further investigation into it, and you go, man, the police really did not cross their T's and dot their I's too well, did they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough of the ins and outs of that one. And I'm not saying that I know the ins and outs of the Pell one either, but I know, you know, the things that I've just mentioned, and I think that's enough.
Yeah, there was a documentary on that one. You should watch it. Actually, it's pretty interesting, and it kind of put a completely different spin on things. And I was like,
the Rainy one.
Actually, you know what? Yeah,
I remember that being on Channel 7 or something. Yeah,
it was actually completely different. I was like, well, how did the police miss that?
You got to remember though, with documentaries though, they go into it. The documentary makers always go into it with
there's always a bias. There's always
a set bias, exactly, and they're gonna produce that, and you know, set it up in a way that they're gonna lead you down their way, the way they want you to think.
Hence, you think, look at Michael Moore, the greatest documentary producer of all time, if you're left leaning, of course. But the way he portrays his documentaries, you'd believe, oh my God, this guy is so true.
I used to like him. I used to like his work, and I used to like him many years ago. But I just think he's just the biggest propagandist, you could say. You know,
hypocrite. He's a hypocrite.
And hypocrite. Yeah, I totally agree.
Because he bangs on about freedom of speech, and there's actually, I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's another documentary called Michael Moore Hates America. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
It's free on YouTube. You have to watch it. If you watch more, and it's a person who's been trying to get a meeting with Michael Moore. How hard it was to get to get together, and it shows that, which is the one where Michael Moore, the one where he apparently walks into a bank and gets a gun.
Was that Bowling for Columbine?
Bowling for Columbine, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely staged, really? Fraudulent lie. They actually interviewed the people, right? And they asked him all these questions, right? And the way it's portrayed on the Bowling for Columbine, and what it actually, she says, well, this is what happened. And he asked, "Oh, can I have a gun? Can I just walk out with it?" He goes, "Yeah, no worries." So then he made it seem like they gave him the gun.
Yeah,
it was an absolute lie, and there was so many cases. And the guy the other one was the Iraq one. There was what was the one about Iraq? We were talking about Bush.
Fahrenheit 9/11.
Fahrenheit 9/11. There was a guy and he was interviewed in hospital. He'd just come back from the war. He lost his arm, lost his legs, and all that.
Yep.
And Michael Moore was interviewing him, and this guy said, "So look what the government's done to this guy. You know, they're not helping him. They did this, and they just used him as." And the guy gets and he goes, "I never said that about anything." He goes, I'm a Marine. I knew what I was going into. I knew what I was doing. I did this because I wanted to do it." Mm. You know, and the way that Michael Moore portrayed it was say like, no.
Yeah.
Like the government threw him under the bus. So highly recommend that. Michael Moore Hates America.
Michael Moore Hates America. There's another one about him also called Manufacturing Dissent. But this is probably more than 10 years old, that one. But that's again about how he puts his documentaries together and how he tells lies. Yeah, same type of thing. So, he's an untrustworthy character, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And again, he had obviously he did not like the guy that was in charge of the NRA at the time. Charlton Heston was the guy that was in the president of the NRA in the early 2000s. Anyway, obviously didn't like him. And there was a scene, I think it was in Bowling for Columbine, was it just after Sandy Hook?
Yep.
Whatever. And he made him say that over my dead body or whatever it was, happened after Sandy Hook. It was actually, that was like 3 weeks before.
Bowling for Columbine was many years before Sandy Hook. So what's the link there?
Which is the one with Sandy Hook then?
That was only a handful of years ago.
Not Sandy Hook. Hold on, no, this was Obama, was Sandy Hook. No, sorry, Columbine.
Columbine was like late 90s.
Yeah, so it must have been the Columbine one. And he showed that, like he said this at the NRA meeting or whatever, but it actually happened he said it happened after Columbine, but actually happened before Columbine.
Oh, the meeting of the NRA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I remember.
And they're saying, then there was another time they said they had another meeting of the NRA 3 days after Columbine. How dare they, this and that.
Okay.
Well, if you look at the constitution of the NRA, it says to call an annual general meeting, it needs to be called like it's three months in advance or something. So that meeting had already been planned 3 months prior.
Right.
But he made it sound like that they got together just to do this because of what happened in Columbine.
Yes.
It's pretty.
Yeah. So there you go. That's
pretty poor.
Hence manufacturing dissent. Okay. Now, Columbine High School massacre took place on the 20th of April, 1999.
Was that the two boys?
The two boys. I don't even want to name them, but they murdered 12 students and one teacher.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there were a bunch of injuries as well that came from it. So yeah, but that's the one that sticks in the memory, and probably mostly because Michael Moore made that documentary. And probably some of that, I remember seeing the documentary. I haven't seen it for years, but probably some of it has some merit. But now it's school shootings in America are a dime a dozen. So,
well, they're a lot more publicised now than they've ever been. So,
I saw some statistic the other day, and I can't remember over what period of time, but there's been like 288 school shootings or something in America since a certain period of time, and they were comparing it to other countries around the world, and other countries had like 1, 2, none. America 288.
Yeah, that's there's an issue there, but it's not something you're going to solve overnight. I can tell you that much.
I don't think the cat's out of the bag in America, right? So let's say
they never control it.
Let's say they did like a John Howard Port Arthur. After Port Arthur, how he did the gun buyback, right? If they were to try and do that in America, firstly, it would never happen. Okay,
it's actually against their constitution.
True, but let's say they abolished that Second Amendment. Is it Second Amendment?
Second Amendment,
right.
Yeah. No.
Let's say that they cancelled that Second Amendment, and they're going to buy back all the guns. All right. There's just no chance. Because there's too many. It's too big, and the culture. It's too embedded in the culture.
But you got what you have to understand as well. And I'm not defending the Americans. Is what you have to, if the amount of firearms they actually got, right, and the amount of gun crime they actually got, it's not. It's a weird one. So I've got to be careful how I explain it, so I don't come across like I'm a sham or something. But it's interesting. You know what I mean? It's like, it really is embedded in their culture, and you will never change it. A lot of people don't understand that. It's very, very embedded. But
yeah, I mean, how do you change that culture? Because there's also, they say that when everybody's got a gun, things are safer. You know what I mean? Because no one's going to lift the finger out of line because someone's going to get.
Well, I think there's a city in Arizona that's got the highest per capita gun carrying, or something like conceal and carry.
Open carry.
And it has the lowest open carry and has the lowest crime.
Well, hang on. Is open carry different to concealed carry?
Open carry means you can see it on your hip.
Right.
Conceal and carry means you can put it in your pocket. No one will know.
Right.
Not all the states have conceal and carry. From what I remember Nevada was open carry, if I do recall. But in Nevada, you couldn't have open carry anywhere that was licensed.
Yeah.
Where they obviously a licensed area. A place where they serve alcohol, anything to do with children, school and education, any government department or institutional government body, and something else, and a public, like a shopping centre or something. So in Nevada, you couldn't actually carry any of those anywhere like that. You couldn't conceal and carry.
Yeah.
Or you couldn't open carry, actually, I should say. But across the border in Arizona, they have a lot of conceal and carry.
Well, definitely glad that we don't have that type of culture here. That's for sure. Because look, at the end of the day, the proof's in the numbers. Of what works better. Now,
But unfortunately, I know you say that, but at the end of the day, when a criminal wants to get a gun, no matter what gun laws you have, you can have the best gun laws in the world, they'll get a gun. End of story.
Oh, no doubt about that.
And my attitude is this: the police are going to stop the criminals getting the firearms, not the licensed law-abiding citizen getting the firearm. And that's the difference here. Sometimes I think in Australia where it gets confused, the line's confused because they tarnish. If something happens, like example, right? Port Arthur happened, right? Yeah, my grandfather lost his gun. Now, my grandfather wasn't what I classify as an avid shooter, but he used to have his property, used to go out shooting, for a rabbit or two. But anyway, the firearm he had was of historical and immense value to him because of what it was.
What was it?
But because it was an old Browning Belgium-made Auto 5. It was a historic. It was given to him from I don't know. There's a story behind it anyway.
Okay.
Now that particular firearm, you got to hand it in. He goes, yeah, but I don't use it. Doesn't matter. Bad luck. You got to hand it in.
Yep.
So they didn't care about. Again, they targeted the wrong person. Like my grandfather was fine. He had it in a safe all his life, actually, believe it or not. He didn't need the days.
It was a one size fits all, as normal with these types of, regulations that come in.
And it's unfortunate because they tarnished good people, as in like responsible people, firearms owners, with the same brush as what a criminal was. Now, you went into a state like Tasmania, where at that time was equivalent to the United States, mind you, and it was the Wild Wild West, supposedly, Tasmania. I mean, again, I was young, so I don't really know. But speaking to people who lived in Tasmania at that time, the firearms were just second nature. It was like you'd go into a deli and they'd have, you could go buy a handgun, or it was just normal.
Yeah.
There was pretty much no gun laws back then because it was a state-controlled issue, and Tasmania never did. Hence why Chopper Read moved to Tasmania after he got out of Victoria, after he got out of prison. He went to Tasmania. Do you know why? He goes, well, I can get a gun here. I don't have to ask any questions. So that's again, because of the lackluster attitude of one state, the rest of the people had to suffer. And there was some beautiful historic firearms in there of immense sentimental value and actual value as such. They got destroyed. I mean, there have been some amazing Berettas that got destroyed. Now, obviously, if you're not a gun collector or whatever, you say, oh, who gives a shit? But regardless, some other people collect cars, some people collect jewelry, some people collect watches, some people collect porcelain dolls, whatever they collect. It's just some people collect a firearm. And they got destroyed. Not that they're going to use it. I mean, I personally am a firearms collector. I like old school firearms, vintage firearms. But so if they would all get, mine didn't qualify in that caliber, but even if I had one of like a Soviet World War II rifle, I'd have to hand that in.
Yeah.
It's sad, And again, I'm not going to use it. It's just it's an old historical military piece of military history.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fine line that governments have to tread when it comes to, implementing these types of, gun buybacks or gun bans or gun restrictions, whatever, I mean, because like taking America as an example, a lot of these school shootings, have been, kids who stole legal firearms from their parents and, whether they, I don't know, maybe they weren't locked away properly and that type of thing. But,
yeah, what else
like
about
that.
The propaganda? So, the other thing about America, which I find, which is sometimes the mainstream media I find a bit frustrating, right, is the majority of these crimes, they always say, oh, I've got to ban assault rifles, ban AR-15s, ban this, and they always bang on about the AR-15 because it's an assault rifle. It doesn't stand for assault rifle, first thing. It stands for Armalite, for the company that made it. They all go ban, 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 ban. But the majority of crime, the majority of murder, and the majority of mass shootings happen with handguns. And yet none of the mainstream media, none of the government actually give a shit about it. I'm like, there's your problem. Fix that problem.
Because that's not a sensational story to tell.
Yeah, but the majority, okay, Again, I look at Columbine. That was handguns. They used handguns there. Virginia Tech, handguns. They're all handguns, because if you see a bloke walking down the street with a rifle, you're going to get some pretty fast police response. But you see a bloke, he's got a handgun in his pants. How the hell are you going to know until he gets up there? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's what they have to control. It's the issues with the handgun. Majority of crimes are committed with a handgun. That's what they have to control in America, is the handgun issue, as opposed to the assault rifle, which they're constantly harping on about in America. That's what I think. I think that is your biggest problem, is your handgun issue there. Look at Chicago. It's
well, Chicago's Chicago's got the highest rate of gun violence in America, I think.
Yes, and it's apparently one of the strictest states. Yeah, and it's apparently the strictest state to get a firearm is Chicago.
So where are they getting them from? They're just getting them from across the border, surely.
They get them from across the border. But again, that proves that sometimes the gun restrictions and what they're trying to do, it doesn't actually work. California, there was another one. That was another prime example of a state that restricts everything. And yet they're coming from Mexico. They bring them straight through. How are you going to control that? So it's a problem that I don't think they'll ever fix. And again, I think the biggest issue in America is the handgun, by far. They got to control that handgun issue, because that's where the majority of these crimes happen. I believe they should be licensed. Personally, that's me.
100%. Yes, that's. They try to make things, I suppose, sound, black and white, simple. This is the problem. This is the solution we need to do. You put in place, and that's it. And that gets simplifying an issue gets drums up support. And I think that's what governments do, because at the end of the day, any nuance or explanation of complexities and that type of thing, the public doesn't have the stomach for it. You know what I mean? They want just bite-sized bits of information that they can quickly make a decision on and support or get behind. The governments and political parties employ media advisors to spin these things, in the simple way possible to get the support that they want one way or the other. So that they can then implement their measures as easily as possible. Now, I don't know. And then, luckily in Australia, we don't have this we've got a gun lobby, but we haven't got the NRA in America is pretty much like its own political party, you could say, or political movement, with millions of people, of members. How many million members would they have over there?
I think it's 6 million or something.
And are they like the biggest lobbying group in the country as well?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So, how much money they pour into, well, probably both parties.
They do 100% both parties.
Both parties. They play both sides of the fence, don't they?
Pretty much every president has been a member of the NRA. I think Obama wasn't. Besides that, I know Trump was. Trump is, actually. I'm pretty sure Clinton was. Bush definitely was. Both Bushes were. Reagan was. So I'm pretty sure they all were. I'm pretty sure Obama. I don't think Obama was. But they're all life members of the NRA. So what does that tell you? It's an interesting. Again, and I do think, I'm not sticking up for the NRA, but unfortunately, they're not media, what's the word?
Savvy?
Not that, but they're not portrayed well in the media. They always think they're the evil, narcissistic people and all this and that. Well, they're not necessarily. A lot of them believe in, and look, there's some things I do agree with the NRA with, and believe it or not, if someone breaks into your house, oh my God.
There should be, gloves are off, surely.
Gloves are off. Yeah, that's the NRA's number one motto. You know what I mean? Is if someone breaks into your house, by all means, shoot the motherfucker. Excuse my language, but that's what they believe.
Well, I read an article this morning actually about in Chicago, 2 guys broke into. I think they were pretending to be police. They knocked on the door and then barged in to this family. I think it was husband, wife, and 2 kids. With guns, and I think the husband struggled with one of the guys to try and get his gun off him, whatever, while the other one had the wife and 2 kids at gunpoint in the bedroom. This guy, I think he got the gun off the guy and shot him dead, and then chased the other one out. I'm not sure if he ran away and then was picked up by cops or whatever. But yeah, and you know what? Fair enough. Good on him.
Yep.
If he's in your home or even around your home, if you can shoot, an intruder dead, by all means, there should be no restriction on that.
That is the biggest. That's one of the NRA's biggest.
But the thing is,
people join.
And I think that in America, that's well, I don't know. It's probably state by state. I would imagine they all got their individual laws.
Depends on which state. Yeah.
The majority, I'd say that you're going to get away with that because it's self-defense. However, in Australia, I don't know. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, if it's your life or theirs, I'm sure that the cops are going to lean towards you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Surely.
but they use the word equal force.
All right, equal force, but you're in my home and I'm defending my family.
Equal force.
So if he comes with a baseball bat, you can't shoot him with your gun.
No.
All right. Well, that's worth going to jail for. Sorry, but surely.
No, you can't. It's equal force.
You know what I mean?
If he's beating your wife up with a baseball bat and continually beating, well, then you can shoot him. But if you stand there with a baseball bat.
So if how do you determine equal force? Because 20 blows with a baseball bat, at what point are you allowed to pull the trigger?
I don't know. Maybe that's the same we have to ask our police friend what his thoughts are. Well, that's my understanding of the law anyway. The word equal force. Equal force.
At the end of the day, your word against the dead person's word. Whose word wins? I don't know. Well, I suppose that's where the forensics and that comes in to determine what actually happened and all that. So.
True.
Yeah, tough one. But I think that behind your walls, you should be allowed to defend it to the death. If anyone breaks in
your own castle, yeah. Well, yeah. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily
true.
No,
it's not always the case. But we've seen cases where someone in Australia, someone's broken in, they've been shot dead, they've been charged, but they get off. Right?
They're still being charged.
But yeah, I think that sometimes they've just got to go through the process.
They've been charged. But you've been charged. You got to go to court. You need a lawyer.
Yeah.
You got that hanging over your head. It takes time.
Yeah.
So
you've had the stress of someone, breaking into your home, possibly terrorizing yourself and your family. The stress that you actually had to, use lethal force, right?
Yes.
In self-defense, because that's going to be psychologically, especially with someone who's not, a violent person in general. That's going to play on your mind. That's going to cause you distress, and then you've got to go through a court process. I don't like the thought of that. All right, we were going to discuss, like last week, we discussed some events that we've been to in our lifetime, and we touched on going to the World Cup together in Germany in 2006. And we mentioned your Yankees honeymoon experience as well, which I'm still very envious about.
Yes.
What else? What did you want to reminisce about this time?
Well, I've been to a few Formula One races. My first one was probably the best experience. It was in 2004, I believe. Watching Schumacher win, that was fantastic. But that was in the days when the V10 motors, ear-piercingly loud. So that was Melbourne. You could hear them throughout this. It was incredible. And then you saw the motors change over time, because I've been to I went to 07. No, so I went 04, 07, 08, 09, 10.
You went like 3 years in a row.
Yeah, more. Yeah, and then I went 15. I think 15. I went to Malaysia. So I've seen the V10, the V8, and then the V6 motor. And it's a shame because it doesn't have that what's that distinctive sound that
it's got the whippersnipper sound to it. Although they've kind of, it's not as bad as it used to be, is it? At the moment.
No, it's not as bad. But regardless, you cannot beat the sound of that initial. I mean, the V8 was a good sound too, don't get me wrong. But compared to that high revving, 19,000 RPM Ferrari motor, the V10, which was, it was 3 litre, whatever it was. Incredible sound. What a sound. It was ear-piercingly loud. It was just an amazing experience.
So when you go to a Formula One race, I mean, obviously being there, the biggest thing about it, I suppose, is the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
It's an awesome atmosphere. Even, you know, if you go, whether you're at the practice day, the qualifying, or the race on Sunday, it's just an awesome, 3 or 4 day event. It's awesome. I love it. I've only been to 2 myself.
You've seen probably the best one of all time.
Monza 2002 and Monaco 2012, which was won by Mark Webber. That was good.
So you saw.
I saw Ferrari win,
an Australian win,
and Australian win. It's not bad. Eh? One of these days I got to get to Melbourne. But what I was going to ask you is, I mean, when you're actually at the race, do you reckon you get a full the full feeling of knowing what's going on in the race the whole time from start to finish, compared to when you're watching it on TV? Obviously, you've got the cameras going.
You got the cameras. You watch the TV. You watch the TVs, but it's not so much.
It's hard to follow the whole race story, if you know what I mean, when you're there. Yeah. Because you're only seeing one part of the track. The rest, you got to watch on the screen in between, what's going by you.
Yeah.
It is a bit difficult, I've found, is to follow exactly what's going on in the whole race.
Yeah.
As much as, the 2 experiences I've had were amazing. I mean, look, Monaco, we had seats overlooking the harbour. I mean, amazing, absolutely. It was at the point where they come out of the tunnel. I think one or two turns after that, they go past the main part of the harbour, and we were, along that section, overlooking all these boats with, everyone in their bikinis and boardies and drinks and music going, and all these amazing yachts parked, and great experience that was. Yeah,
that would have been so bad. That would have been so terrible, huh?
After that, we walked. After the race finished, we walked the whole track. It took about 2 hours. So yeah, walked under the tunnel.
That would have been an experience and a half. That one there, unbelievable. Even Mark Webber would have been good too.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, we had to. It's not like in Monza, like I mentioned a few episodes back. As soon as the final car crossed the finish line, everyone is on the track, right? Under the podium. You can't do that in Monaco, obviously, because it's a very different type of setup. So you just had to watch the ceremony on the screen. It's happening behind us, right? Probably 20, maybe 30, 40 meters away, directly behind us for where we were sitting. But we couldn't actually see it or get over to there. We just had to watch it on the TV screens. But yeah, fantastic that to be there when.
I actually had one memory when I was. One thing made me laugh. I think it was 07 when Kimi Räikkönen won up. I think if I remember when he was racing with Ferrari, and we was all excited, ready to jump on the track. And they got those gate barriers. They got all the high gate barriers.
Yep.
Well, there was one bloke who was very eager to get over. So what he did was, before the race finished, so he climbed all the way to the top, right? And everyone told him to get down. You can't do that. He climbed all the way to the top. He got to the top, and if they finished, he was going to climb back over, but he clipped his foot, and he fell from the top, and all you heard was this massive thud, eh? And the whole crowd went, ooh.
Those fences, they're not just straight up, they angle.
No, they go angle around. And he climbed, I'm telling you, I was like, wow. I was like, holy shit. It was actually funny, eh? I was like, and the way he landed was like, poof. Oh, thud. That was quite a funny memory, actually. But it was awesome experience. Awesome. But going back, that 2004 one was very special purely because of the sound that engine made, and you knew you're in Melbourne listening to the form. You went to the.
So that 2004, did Schumacher win the championship that year? He would have won it that year.
He won it that year. Yeah, he did actually.
Because he won. Is it 5? He won with Ferrari, or 5 in total?
Five was. Yeah. That's when I think the closest guy was there was the Williams car at that time, which was
Montoya?
driven by Juan Pablo.
Pablo Montoya. He won, if I remember right, in the Monza race that I went to, he qualified first.
Yeah, no, he qualified second, I think, when I was at that one there. But that's when Williams was actually like amazing. Then after that,
geez, they've just gone into a downward spiral, that team, haven't they? I think there's a whether it's a one-off documentary or a series about Williams on Netflix at the moment, which I haven't watched because actually on Netflix there's the second season of the Formula One series. Is it Drive to?
Yeah, Drive to
Drive to Win, Drive to Stay Alive, or something. Or I don't know what it's called now.
I haven't seen.
I've only seen the first episode, or maybe I'm halfway through the first episode of the second season. I haven't quite gotten into it yet, but when I do, normally I binge. Like the test series that I watched on Amazon. Once I got into that, it's one after the other because you just get engrossed in these series. Like I did that with the first season of the Formula One on Netflix. I can't remember what the hell the name of it's called. Drive to Survive.
Drive
to Survive. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Other events. What else we've been to together? Apart from
mainly soccer.
Yeah, the World Cup in 2006. But what else have we been together? That trip we went to a concert at the Olympic Stadium of Ligabue. It's my favourite Italian rock star. What else have we been to?
I've been to a few. I'm not really a concert fan. You like concerts?
I love concerts.
Me personally, I don't find concerts very.
I've been to about 16 Springsteen concerts and I think 14 U2 concerts.
No, they don't really do it for me personally. I've been to a few.
You just can't stand the crowds.
I can't. Yeah, it's too loud. They're annoying.
It's too. But crowds at Formula One and the sound of Formula One cars, they're okay. That's not too loud.
Okay. Well, yeah, correct. I hate people jumping around. I don't like. I went to one concert that was in. I took my wife to a concert where it was in 2011, 2012, whatever it was. And it was that NIB Stadium, I think it was. And we were in the middle, but we couldn't leave the middle because you couldn't get back in. So if I had to go to the toilet or get a drink, you couldn't leave.
Yes, you can.
If I couldn't get back in the middle where I was. I could go to the toilet, but they wouldn't let me back in the middle where I was.
Oh, hang on. They wouldn't allow you to go back, is that what you mean? Yeah,
they wouldn't let me go back in the middle.
Okay.
To where I was standing. I was like, but I've got to go to the toilet. I said, well, if you leave here, you can't come back.
Well, it's not normally like that. What concert was that?
I can't even, it was like 4 or 5. They had Pitbull.
Oh, it was one of those festival events.
Yeah. It was a real pain in the backside.
I'm not into that. No, if I go to a concert, it's got to be just a one-off band that I love, and that's it.
Oh, it was good. Like they had, I don't remember. There was some good. It was actually a fun time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Well, 2010. Yeah, but what I'm saying, I was heated. You had to go. So where am I going to go to the toilet, mate? He goes, I don't care. You can't go. I said, yeah, no worries. I'm just going to piss my pants. He goes, well, bad luck.
No, well, I do it. When it's obviously I've been to around 30 Springsteen and U2 concerts combined. I think maybe 3 U2 concerts I've been in the stands, and it's just not the same. For Springsteen, they've always been pretty much front and centre up at the stage, and you've got to line up all day long to get there, and that can be hard work. But when the concert starts, it's like you're just transported to another place because there's no experience like being at a Springsteen concert for me. It's just like
I rate his music, but I'm not a fan of concerts. People like them, I get that. That's the thing, but not for me. Me personally, no. I'd rather go watch a football game or watch Formula One or whatever, but not that. No, don't like it. I never. But even back in the early days, I went to a few rock concerts. Went to Kiss concert. I was supposed to go to Bon Jovi and all these concerts, but again.
Kiss, I think I've seen 5 or 6 times. Basically, each time they've come to Perth, apart from
the last three. Yeah. I got fed up with that band because it's always the final tour. This is it.
Yeah, they're finishing up, and they were supposed to be here. I think it was November last year, and that's right. They cancelled it or postponed it or whatever because one of them was sick or something like that. As much as I grew up on Kiss.
Whereas I did enjoy it when Paul Stanley did his solo concert at the Burswood Convention Centre. Remember that?
That was
brilliant.
Excellent show, and those musicians were just
amazing. The sound was brilliant because another thing as well, which I find a little bit frustrating about concerts, is you go there, you listen to them. They majority of the time sound like crap because of just. It's not their fault. It's just the way the
acoustics aren't great.
The acoustics are crap, and it's very. But whereas the one we went to at the Burswood Convention Centre, the sound was amazing because that's what that theatre is designed for music.
Burswood Theatre, that's right. Yeah.
It was Burswood Theatre. It was brilliant.
What's that? Maybe 1,500 people capacity.
1,500 people. And when the guy was playing the drums, you could feel the bass drum. Just you could feel it.
That was when Paul Stanley's voice was amazing. He's just he's one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best frontmen of a band of all time.
He's a showman.
And like I said, brilliant showman. Yeah, I grew up with Kiss being my favourite band, and then when I came across U2 and then Springsteen, they took over. More mature rock, you could say. Whereas Kiss is just a fun time, right? Yeah. So I still love their music, even though these days probably listen to them quite rarely. Probably you could say. Where was I going with that? Yeah, Paul Stanley, just a brilliant voice and everything. But you know what? His voice is gone.
Well, he's 60.
I don't know if you've seen I think he's 70. I'm not sure if you've seen any YouTube clips of any recent concerts, but his voice just isn't there, and it's a real shame.
Well, it does deteriorate. It's a skill that does deteriorate. It's like driving, Simon. You're not as good a driver when you're 70 as when you're 20. Yeah? So.
I mean, and also being a diehard Springsteen fan, when you compare Springsteen's voice from late 70s through the 80s to now, he's got that real gravel voice.
Raspy. He's very raspy.
Yeah. And I love it. I love
that.
Both.
Yeah, well, if you look at him, the Bruce Springsteen, one thing that sticks out for me was when he sang "We Are the World, We Are the Children," whatever it was.
What?
When he sang that Live Aid song.
Live Aid. There were about 30 artists in that. Lionel Richie.
Yeah, but he probably actually had one of the longest. He probably had the larger portion of it, of actual independent singing. You have a look at it. Watch it again. You go, shit, he actually sang. Compared to Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson would have been the main ones.
I think Michael Jackson was the big star of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, Simon,
USA for Africa, they call themselves. Should we play it?
Mate, they were all stars. What singer wasn't, even now, you look back, there's like USA for Africa. Who was singing? There was...
I'm just playing it on my computer. Can you hear that?
No.
You can't. All right.
Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, who else was there?
Parton, yeah. Well, Kenny Rogers just died the other day.
Yeah, Kenny Loggins was there, but he was good. Paul Simon was there. Bob Geldof was there, but he didn't sing. He did do a solo.
All right. Here we go. Can you hear that?
Yeah. Told you, he sings a fair bit in that song.
I didn't realise how much he sang in that. All right.
Yeah. He was it, mate. That was a Born in the USA era, wasn't it?
I was going to say, was that 1980?
That was 85.
Okay, well, Born in the USA was 1984, so that was the height of his popularity in worldwide, you could say.
Yeah. That was it. He was the man. No, he was it.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I was 5 or 6. What the hell did I know? So... yeah, mate.
But everyone talks about its famous album. You always remember that's the one. Even I remember that one.
That's brought a smile to my face watching that.
Yeah, but you look at famous albums that like each one of these singers has, and that would probably be his one, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, where are these celebrities these days? Are they going to be doing a a current version for COVID-19.
Oh, no, they did it already. Didn't you see? They're saying Imagine.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that. God, that was shocking. Yeah, but they were D-grade know-nothings. They were nobodies.
Besides Wonder Woman, they were really... Oh, Will Ferrell, Wonder Woman, and Jimmy Fallon, maybe. The rest were a bit...
After this, I'm going to spend the rest of the day listening to Bruce, I think. That's just inspired me.
Yeah, what about a bit of Journey? Steve Perry's pretty
Journey,
good.
Don't Stop Believing. Well, I probably had never heard of Journey before the final scene of The Sopranos, which has made Journey iconic. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because Tony Soprano plays Don't Stop Believing on the jukebox.
Oh, does he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never watched The Sopranos, so I can't comment.
Hold up. Have you never watched The Sopranos?
No, I've never got into it yet. Because I've actually, everyone said you can't just, he goes, I've got the series there, it's all done. But apparently everyone said you got to start and finish because once you're hooked, that's it. You forget about it, as they say.
Forget about it. I can't believe that and envy you at the same time because I would love to watch that from start to finish, all 86 episodes, and just binge it right now for the first time. That would be... I mean, you've seen bits and pieces or episodes here and there.
I even saw the last scene. The last scene everyone talks about. Yeah, the last scene.
So you've seen the last scene. You probably can't remember it all. I don't know.
Yeah, was there at a restaurant, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. But I'm not going to go into details about it, but it's the greatest scene. To me, that I just get excited thinking about it. It just ties up everything so well. It brings back, and it's so subtle you wouldn't know unless you actually study it. And it just brings back other things from other series from other seasons, and oh my God, it's amazing. Things that they say, they're bringing back things from the past episodes, like way before, and it's just so smart. It's so smart. Apparently, David Chase had planned that final scene, or like years and years in advance. It's genius. It's absolutely genius.
I know what it probably was because I was at that stage and I listened to the American Italians. I'll forget about it and all that. Get the cannolis and all that sort of stuff. It's like, come on, boys.
Listen, there's a new podcast just started. 2 episodes in. Two of the main characters from The Sopranos, Steve Schirripa, who plays Bobby Bacala, and Michael Imperioli, who plays Christopher Moltisanti, right? They've started doing a podcast together. What they're doing is they're going through every episode, right? So they'll watch the episode because apparently they both haven't seen the whole series since they finished the show, right?
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're watching an episode separately and then they'll come together and do an episode talking about it, right? So for you, now is the perfect time. Watch an episode and then watch the podcast. That would be brilliant. But then again, there might be spoilers in their podcast as well. So, because obviously they're going on the assumption that everyone's seen the whole thing. So maybe, I don't know, that might not be a good idea. But start watching it, Mel. Forget about everything else on TV. Just watch The Sopranos, the greatest show ever made, and don't let anyone ever say anything different. It is. It's the show that created every other show out there. Put it that way. Oh, it's the best. The absolute best. James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano is an absolute genius. Just amazing.
See, I'd never seen Sopranos yet. I went to the bar in Little Italy that they always shoot at.
Where?
When I went on my honeymoon in 2000.
Satriali's or Bada Bing?
No, not the Bada. Bada Bing's a strip joint, wasn't it?
It was their strip joint, yeah, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't
really
that. Yeah, but no, I think it must have been because the guy said this is the bar in Little Italy that The Sopranos was at. And there's all Soprano stuff in there.
I don't know.
Pretty sure, yeah, it was in.
Must be Bada Bing. Yeah. That's the main bar.
I can't remember. Some bar there in Little Italy in New York there.
Look, if I'm ever just channel surfing through Foxtel and there's a Sopranos episode on, the world stops. It doesn't matter if it's season 4, episode 9, and it's halfway through, right? I don't care. I will just stop and watch. because it's the best show ever. And, I've seen the whole series probably twice through, I reckon, I would say.
But it's like, speaking of series, there are really good ones. Like, so I didn't mind Entourage. That was good.
That was okay. That struggled the last probably 2 seasons. Wasn't great.
Well, the last season was actually crap because of that's when the writer's strike was on, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's why. That's because then he lost the plot.
And then they did they do 1 or 2 movies?
I definitely did 1. The movie was all right.
I wasn't fussed about the movie either. Yeah, but the early seasons were excellent of Entourage.
Oh, mate, Ari Gold. If you could,
what a character,
mate! If you could get tell you what, if you could get the style and charisma of Harvey Specter from Suits, with the cunningness of Ari Gold
and the humor, he's just the funniest bugger of a character.
Yeah.
Come on,
yeah, but he had a natural instinct, and it was a beautiful instinct, right? And then you incorporate the intuition and the eloquency of. Did you ever watch Boston Legal?
Yeah.
Alan Shaw of Boston Legal. Alan
Shaw, which one's he? Is he like the ginger-haired guy?
Yeah, what's his name? Alan Shaw. He's played by James. What was his name? Alan Shaw was played by
Shatner. Is that
Shatner was? That was Denny Crane. It was played by what was his name? James Spader.
James Spader. Yeah. He's pretty suave, James Spader.
So if you could get the best characteristics of each of those blokes and have a character, he'd be the ultimate man. I'm telling you, ultimate man in business and just in everything. Wow,
that was really good. That was a good show. Yeah,
very good show. Very underrated.
Didn't watch the whole thing, but I remember seeing some episodes and enjoying it.
That was very good. Boston Legal was very
one I used to
very
watch. Another law show was The Practice.
Yeah, but that's what the Boston Legal was a spin-off of The Practice.
That's right.
Yeah, because Alan Shaw came in the last season. of The Practice.
I would have seen you as more of a Ally McBeal type of binge watcher.
No.
Just kidding.
No, I don't really watch. To be honest, I don't really watch a lot of those TV shows. And I went through a stage where I was watching Suits, but then
I think I watched the first season or 2 of Suits and I fell off.
First 2 seasons are really good, and then I think it was starting season 3. It really dropped the ball a bit, because I think again, like me, his character changed, like his persona, from being such an arrogant, cold, confident
Harvey Specter,
to actually having like a bit of emotion, and it's like that's not who he is,
okay.
That was my opinion of the whole of the Suits. That's what I think, me personally. Whereas Ari Gold pretty much maintained being Ari Gold from start go to way.
What about any current modern TV series? Anything that you're into?
Not really.
One that I watch with my wife is This Is Us. Ever seen all that or heard of that?
No, never.
I think it might be on 10, but it's late at Channel 10, but it's late at night. It's just the story of this family as they grow up, and it's very, very intelligently put together because they go forward and back in time throughout every episode. So, yeah, it's very smart the way it's put together, and it's like, I mean, my wife cries every bloody episode, mate. It's very very tear-jerkerish, you could say. But
if I could, the only thing I do watch all the time is, and I could watch any episode from any series, is Top Gear. I love Top Gear. And the Grand Tour with those guys, brilliant.
Okay, all right. Bit of a change from actually a drama series, but yeah. But that's on Amazon.
Yeah, the Grand Tour, man.
The Grand Tour, yeah.
Yeah, Grand Tour is brilliant, right? And Top Gear. It doesn't really the last couple of seasons of Top Gear, like ever since the 3 of them left. I mean, I didn't mind Matt LeBlanc. He was okay. He actually had a little bit.
I don't think I ever saw an episode.
But even like the new one's got Andrew Flintoff.
How does he go in it?
Yeah, but
it's just not the same, huh?
It is. It's look, Flintoff's okay, but he doesn't have that. What's the word? That connection of those three. You know what I mean? Like it's different. Like it doesn't matter what episode. Like I could watch any episode of with Jeremy Hammond and May, or it doesn't matter which one it was. Anyone. I reckon my wife curses me because with the Fetch TV, it comes on automatically. Top Gear. She can't handle it, man. She goes, I'm sick and tired of you watching Top Gear. It's all I hear is that music. I'm sick of it. I said, yeah, it's not my fault. Every time it's on, it's on. And all those specials, whether it's the Botswana special, whether it's the Africa special, whether it's the Bolivia special, whether it's the Patagonian special, where it's going through the USA special, it doesn't matter. I still laugh, and I find something else to laugh at the next time. They're actually brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
You're talking about the original guys.
Yeah, the original guys, you know. Even with the Grand Tour, they're brilliant. Even what they do on the Grand Tour, still, mate, you just cry laughing because that's just how they are.
So who's the current Top Gear guys? Freddie Flintoff?
Freddie Flintoff, and there's another, like a Welsh guy, and then there's what's his name? He's a race car driver. What was his name? Not Matt.
Anyway, do they still have the Stig?
Yeah, Stig's there, but we don't know who that is.
All right.
What's his name?
I haven't watched it since the original guys left.
Yeah, what was his name? I'm trying to think. I'll get the. Here we are. Chris Harris is the one. Chris Harris. He's a race car driver. He's pretty good. And the new guy's Paddy McGuinness. He's a comedian.
Paddy McGuinness. That name rings a bell. Anyway, make your wife happy. Sit down with her. 1 episode per night. Start watching The Sopranos. Talk to me in 86 nights.
Yeah, I think she'll
love it. Don't worry. I did this with my wife. We binged it on our honeymoon. Not all 86, but I took my laptop and
you should have been binging something else there, son. Jesus Christ, man, that's something to reply.
We were quite relaxed on our honeymoon. We would sit by the pool and have the laptop and watch.
You should have been looking at the roof all night. You know what I mean? Jesus Christ.
Apart from that, and watch an episode or two of Sopranos here and there, it was But do that. Start watching The Sopranos with your wife. Trust me, she'll get into it.
We'll see. See if I can convince her.
Oh, mate, it's just the greatest show ever.
All right.
On that note, we've probably been going about 15 hours, so let's wrap it up and we'll reconvene next week.
No worries. All the best.
Adios.
Ciao.
Hey everyone, it's Simon here. Just before we go, I wanted to remind you to follow us on Facebook, Chronicles on the Fly podcast, and now we're also on Instagram, so find us on there too. Same name, obviously. And we're going to leave you also with an important community message, specifically for all of our Italian friends. Remember, stay home and look after yourselves.
Sentite cani sciancati. Siete tutte sciancate, non si può uscire da casa. Non si può uscire! Non se ne esce da casa con sta corona, cazzo! State a casa, se ti trovo fuori, ti metto qualcosa in tuo culo e non camminate per una settimana!